You watched Joe Biden last night deliver his first address to a joint session of Congress. He repeated twice this proposition that we are a systemically racist country. Your reaction?
Well, it's a bunch of horse manure. I mean, give me a break.
Well, Republicans nowadays seem to lack any real governing agenda, meaning they can't tell you what they're for. They have no problem telling you what they're against, like so-called wokeness, Biden's made-up ban on red meat, and democracy. So far, Republican legislatures in more than 40 states have introduced hundreds of bills targeting voting access and seizing authority over administering elections. Yesterday, Florida became the latest state to pass a bill that will make it harder for millions of people to vote by putting restrictions on drop boxes and voting by mail. It does not include the provision that banned people from giving food and water to voters waiting in line. Republicans softened the language to instead ban anyone from, quote, engaging in any activity with the intent to influence or the effect of influencing a voter. I'm joined now by Florida State Senator Shevrin Jones, a Democrat representing parts of Broward and Miami-Dade counties, and Ari Berman, senior reporter for Mother Jones, whose latest piece is called Florida Republicans Just Passed a Georgia-Style Voter Suppression Bill, and who's the author of the great book, Give Us the Ballot, The Modern Struggle for Voting Rights in America. So, Ari, how restrictive is this bill on a scale from 1 to 10, in your view?
Well, it's pretty restrictive, Zerlina. And considering that Florida was cited as a model for election integrity by Donald Trump, by Ron DeSantis, it's extremely restrictive because this was the state they said was the model for the rest of the country in terms of how to run elections. And then when Democrats and Black voters started using vote by mail at a higher rate than Republicans, that's when they decided to roll back mail voting, to ban drop boxes, to expand challenges to vote counting. So they wrote the rules, they won under the rules, but the minute that new demographic groups started using those rules, now they're rolling them back.
The same question to you, Senator. Do you think this bill is as bad as Ari lays that out? What's your rating on a scale of 1 to 10?
Absolutely. I think Ari is spot on. And truth be told, there is no scale when it comes to how we scale on the barriers when it comes to our civil liberties. Florida creating these barriers is nothing but a power grab attempt by the Republicans, truth be told, because they lost. When you're talking about restricting how an individual can go to the ballot box to drop off their ballot, restricting those hours from 9 to 5, knowing that individuals are at work, knowing that within the African-American community, that is where blue-collar workers are working. Florida knew exactly what they were doing when they created these laws. This was a record number year where individuals went out to vote. And because of that, they changed the rules. And this is no difference. This is a total reminiscent of the Jim Crow era, only now instead of Jim Crow, they're called elected officials, and they are our sheriffs, state legislators, senators, and governors. And Florida is moving the goalposts.
Ari, it feels to me, to that point, that, there's a blueprint that states are following here, following the lead of Georgia. So in your view, did Georgia just start this off and all other states are like, okay, we'll take that legislation and we'll one-up you?
Yeah, it's absolutely true that Georgia has become the blueprint for Republican voter suppression efforts all across the country. I mean, we're seeing identical provisions now in state after state. We're seeing limiting drop boxes, making it harder to get mail ballots, banning voters from getting food and water in line, expanding challenges to vote counting. These are all things that Georgia did that's now happening in Florida, in Arkansas, in other states. And it's also clear that Georgia is the tip of the iceberg, that every week now, it seems like a new state restricts voting rights. And this is extremely alarming. And we are in a very dire moment for democracy. A lot of people said after Georgia, we couldn't let this happen in other states. Well, it's happening in Florida. It's happening in Montana. It's happening in Texas. It's happening in Arizona. Republican voter suppression is happening unchecked right now. And that's the most disturbing thing about all of this.
Senator, it feels to me like, to Ari's point, this started in Georgia and folks were like, okay, this is bad, right? They put the piece in the Georgia bill originally. You can't even give food and water to people standing on a line. But then I'm like, why are people on this line? The line is there because of other types of voter suppression, like closing polling locations. So in your view, is the messaging to voters clear enough about what the Republicans are attempting to do here?
Well, the one thing I'm clear on is that the voters recognize that their voices are being heard, and that's why people are coming out to vote in the manner that they are doing. And so because people recognize what the Republicans are doing, all this is doing is adding fuel to the flame to where people saying that, okay, we've seen this before. We've been here before. If you want to try to restrict us to vote, therefore, we're going to come out in more massive numbers. I can tell you this, that groups, they know what the Republicans are doing, and they are already organizing to do these things to ensure that we are prepared for the next election. I'll say this, that as long as we are moving in this direction and the Republicans know that they are losing, people will continue to come out and show strength in numbers to ensure that our voices are heard. Because as long as we are in this position that we're in now and moving in this direction with someone like President Joe Biden, people know that we are better than what we were a few months ago when we had Donald Trump. We're going to keep moving forward.
We just have one more minute here, but Ari, in an exchange between Louisiana Senator John Kennedy and Stacey Abrams, I'm just going to paraphrase it instead of playing you the sound, but essentially he was trying to get her to explain how their voter suppression law in Georgia is racist. The racism seems pretty baked in. So to speak to how these bills are racist, just explain what she was trying to articulate in that hearing.
Well, what she was trying to articulate in the hearing and what's happening all across the country is that Republicans are targeting the voting methods that were used to increase turnout among Black voters and voters of color. And in Florida, they're attacking mail voting after the Black share of mail voting doubled from 2016 to 2020. Florida Republicans were fine with mail voting when white people were voting by mail. But when Black people started voting by mail, then they're trying to roll it back. And that's the exact same thing that's happened in Georgia. That's what's behind all of these voter suppression efforts, that when Black voters, communities of color turn out in higher numbers, instead of trying to reach out to more voters, you change the voting laws to try to disenfranchise people in future elections.
Senator, can we fight these bills without federal legislation as American voters?
Well, listen, we can definitely fight. We need the federal government to fight these, but we also have to fight these things on the ground. It's going to take us to be on our feet to fight these tooth and nail. And I can tell you right now that we are prepared to continue to fight these things and take them all the way to the Supreme Court, because you cannot and they will not silence the voices of people, because people know exactly what the Republicans are onto, and they will not win.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.